Yo, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I was like, open that mouth. Sure that she's talking and open that mouth. If it say something, we rubbing it out. And then there's something it out. And then it's got and it's part of this something.
And now from an undisclosed location, you are now tuned in to the Xander Effect with host Xander Dames.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Xander Effect. I'm your host, Xander Dames, along with my lovely co-host and assistant. No, I'm just playing. I didn't mean to say assistant. My bad. Actor Jeremy Miller. Jeremy, how you doing, buddy?
I hate you, and I'm really, really unhappy to be here.
Glad to have you here, too. So how's your day going, man?
Hey, my day's going just fine. It's getting things started around here and ready to get talking some football, some video games, some entertainment, and let's get it started.
Well, nice. Well, and talking about in entertainment news, Kanye West decides to go ahead and, he's been on the news lately, as of late, and he's been talking about basically how he's trying to push for black ownership in enterprise, and pretty much he's having an issue with a lot of black artists not owning their masters to their songs, or not owning a lot of things, and in the music industry. But he also has included the NBA as well. Basically, is talking about how the NBA are like in a bubble while Black Lives Matters is on their backs and everything. He of course took to Twitter like he always does and decides to go on a major Twitter rant, including talking about Nick Cannon, saying, quote, "We sat back and watched Nick Cannon get canceled, and we go to play ball in a bubble with Black Lives Matter on our backs. Brothers, let's stand together for real. There is no NBA or music industry without black people. Fair contracts matter. Ownership matters." So he's really he took it to the next level, however, today by posting a video of his the Grammy Award, one of the Grammy Awards that he won, and putting it in the toilet while he's peeing on it, or at least it looks like somebody's peeing on it. We really don't know. It could be simulated. We don't know, but that's a pretty bold statement for such a prestigious award such as the Grammys.
I would agree if it was anybody but him. I'm sorry, it's the guy's a whack job. This is the thing. As you started that off, as you're talking, and what he's the points he's making about black ownership and not being in the positions of power and needing to fight for these things, those are all admirable things. Those are absolutely things that need to be addressed, need to be talked about, all of that is shit that needs to be focused on. Yeah. And then he goes off onto all these other random crazy tangents, and I'm sorry, but it makes it very hard to take him seriously. I mean, you're starting to see more and more black owners in the NBA. They're part of partnership teams and things like that, but you are starting to see it more and more and more. Mm-hmm. It's happening. Now, what's not going to happen is that the players are going to get to dictate the terms to all of these owners and say, we want more of this. I mean, that's not how this works. That's why they have collective bargaining agreements. That's why they have their unions who go and do the negotiations. That's why we end up with lockouts and all this crazy stuff. Mm-hmm. That's the name of the game. It's like that in every industry. I mean, we were just talking about it. Mm-hmm. You said, Taylor Swift is upset because she doesn't own her original masters. Yeah, that's very common for artists starting out.
Yeah.
Yes. Now, proportionally speaking, over the years, historically speaking, black musicians were taken advantage of much more in that way, especially back in the day. I mean, that's just the truth. You had old white guys ripping off young black musicians, owning all their music, stealing everything from them. That was incredibly common. I would say nowadays, just with my familiarity with the industry, I'd say that happens to all young and starting out artists now.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is that I was talking about this, how we all have to pay our dues. Every artist starting out, you all have to pay your dues. You don't start off in corporate America as the president and CEO of a company. You have to start off in the mailroom. In the music industry, pretty much your first, few albums or whatever, your first year or whatever, until you start becoming recognized and becoming big, you have to go ahead and eat it. You have no choice because nobody knows you. It's either that or you go the independent route, which, will get you, will pretty much have you be in control of everything, but it's a longer process.
Much longer process, yeah. And it takes a lot longer to get noticed 99.9% of the time.
And that's even if you get noticed.
Exactly.
That's the other problem. That's even if. So a lot of these new artists that have a diva mentality, they need to understand that this isn't yours to act this way. You have to understand that you have to pay your dues. You got no choice in it. And
I blame Bill Gates.
Well, who doesn't?
Well, yeah, except that's not what I meant.
Oh, about this you mean?
Yes. You see, we've been told ever since Bill created one of the greatest fortunes in the history of the world that, hey, look at him. He dropped out of Harvard, started his own company, started from the top, and, built this giant out of it. That's not reality for 99.9% of the world.
That's individual.
One individual in history, you also got
Mark Zuckerberg that also did the same as well. But I mean, judging from his track record, he kind of screwed a couple of people getting there too. So
we all know so did Bill. Bill was as cutthroat as they come. He may be a philanthropist now, but in his younger business days, Bill slit your throat as quick as anything in a business deal. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, he was well known for it. But we've been told in this country that this is, anybody can do this. Anybody can do this. Everybody should be striving for this. And that's just not the reality.
Oh, and hey, and unicorns exist too.
Well, hey, let's take it to the acting thing, man. I've told you, I know one unicorn. Of all the people in this industry and all my friends who've come out to LA to try and make it, I know one unicorn.
Yeah.
One guy.
We all know.
James Marsden.
Mm-hmm.
He moved out from Oklahoma, packed everything he could into his car, moved out, came and lived in my back house for a while, and had a show within 6 months and a film and another TV show. I mean, it literally clicked from the get-go. And that's one guy in my 40 years of being in this industry.
And dude, I mean, he's not the only one. What about the kid that played John Connor in Terminator 2? I mean, he wasn't even an actor per se. I mean, the producer just saw him and said, "Hey, I like your look. I want you to be John Connor." Boom. I mean, those types of situations, they don't happen all the time. It's very rare.
It's incredibly rare. And talking about, that was Edward Furlong, right?
Yeah, Edward Furlong.
Yeah. Talking about him, I mean, unfortunately, look where his career went, though. He got this good part. He did turn it into a few things. But again, this was never what he really wanted to do. And he had a lot of issues with that. And his career just never really went anywhere after that. He had a lot of struggles outside of the industry, and like I said, James is that real unicorn because it's continued. He's actually continued to build on that immediate stardom he found. And, a lot of people may get that one quick chance out of nowhere, but very few are able to turn that into, a lifelong successful career.
And that's so true. I mean, you have so many people that come out here and, they say they pay their dues. Do they really? Possibly. But unfortunately, they don't get very far with it because that's just the way the industry is. A lot of people come out here with that whole Hollywood, dream that you see on television, which, by the way, TV's not real. Okay. It's not real. It's not real. Okay. I don't know how I can freaking stress that. And
but it's reality TV.
you're right, right? To a point. And it's
not real,
dude. Seriously, and they see it, they do it, and then they go back to where they came from. They go back to their own hometown. Sometimes, a dejected failure. They go ahead and they start, their lives. They said, well, I tried and I failed, trying to start something different because I'm older now. The industry won't even look at me. Blah 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 blah. I'm done. They give up. So, and that happens a lot. I mean, LA is seriously a revolving door for a lot of these
aspiring entertainers.
Yes, because I can't call them actors. I really can't, because I mean, they're aspiring entertainers, and they really, it's just a revolving door for them. You don't get many opportunities, and when you finally do, you don't go ahead and become a diva. And if you do become a diva, guess what happens? Bye.
You go bye-bye very quickly.
Very quickly. So it's one of those things where, like, a lot of these people, now that they have the power, that's when they start to complain. It's like, dude, you're making millions. Stop effing complaining. Do you have any idea how incredibly privileged you are to be in the position that you're at? Why don't you use what you're trying to point out there? Because he's trying to go ahead and make this a race thing. He's trying to jump on the Black Lives Matter bandwagon. They're talking about, racial injustice, like as far as police brutality, as far as, black people getting murdered on the streets. That's what they're talking about when it comes to Black Lives Matter. Okay? Not about, oh, well, I want to own my masters because, yeah. Come on, dude.
He's missing the point. And as I said, those things are all, admirable and goals that should be, things we should all be working for in those industries. I mean, we all know, if you look at corporate America, if you look at entertainment, if you look at production, if you look at all of that, for the most part, the top level network jobs, the top executive jobs, the disparity in executives of color, although getting better, is still highly, highly disproportionate. If you look at the stats in almost every industry, it's still highly disproportionate at the highest level of the highest executive levels. So yeah, those are things that need to change. Those are things we can't sit back and say, oh, see, everything's fine now. We're all getting along.
But we're talking about like specifically what he's talking about the music industry and stuff like that. It's like, dude, the music industry has, it's not.
That's why I say he distracts from the real message. Mm-hmm. The things he's talking about are a part of the whole discussion. It's a part of the discussion of the systematic racism that does, in my opinion, exist in this country.
Yes.
And that's, I believe, what he's addressing is the need to break down those things. But again, in his own Kanye way, he misses the mark completely and goes off on his own tangent.
As he always do. But then again, it wouldn't be Kanye if he didn't.
Like I said, man, what was it? 2 days ago, he just came out and said he basically believes he's the reincarnation of Moses. So...
well, yeah. In other entertainment news, we'll leave it at that. In other entertainment news, Jason Momoa is basically backing his co-star, his Justice League co-star, Ray Fisher. Ray Fisher played Cyborg, as Jason Momoa played Aquaman in the Justice League movie. And apparently, Ray Fisher went public by saying that he was being mistreated by Joss Whedon and producers Geoff Johns and John Berg. They apparently they had unprofessional behavior on set, and it looks like Jason Momoa was the first person to actually back Ray Fisher in his complaints against these gentlemen. and they're asking for Warner Brothers to do a full investigation on what happened on Justice League, like what exactly happened. So like they're basically saying that they were being mistreated. There was Joss Whedon was it was just not a toxic. It was a toxic set. And Jason went on Instagram and he said, quote, "This shit has to stop and needs to be looked at Ray Fisher." At Ray Fisher's Instagram tag, and everyone else who experienced what happened under the watch of at WB Pictures needs proper investigation. So that's what's happening right now at this time. They're not too happy with what went on there. They actually preferred that the original director stayed behind, Zack Snyder, and they were happier with him. And apparently, it seems like that's the general consensus, because it looks like Justice League would have been better off with Zack Snyder at the helm. And we're gonna find out actually with the Snyder cut that's coming out next year. And you know, the coloring of the images look better, everything looks better. So because they start from what I read here and there, all the toxicity that happened on set started right after Snyder left. And Snyder left for personal reasons. He had a death in the family. He had to go ahead and deal with a lot of personal issues that he had going on. So they brought in Joss Whedon, and that ruined the movie, apparently, from what many people are saying, or from what reports are saying. That pretty much ruined the atmosphere of the movie, the energy of the movie. It ruined everything. And looks like it's true, because again, you got the actors that are complaining about it.
First of all, God bless Jason Momoa for standing up and saying something. Too often, the big names in these type of productions are too worried about protecting what they got, and they won't speak up and say anything. So God bless him for doing that, because that's really awesome of him to back up his co-star and address a very serious problem in Hollywood. It's definitely not as rampant, I think, as some people think, but you definitely have certain directors and producers and actors as well that have reputations for creating a toxic set. And for whatever reason, whether it be a sexually toxic set or racially toxic or otherwise, these people have a reputation, and it's well known in Hollywood. And yet, Hollywood doesn't care for the most part until they're forced to. As long as they're making money, they don't give a damn. So I like this. I like the fact that they are coming to Warner Brothers and trying to pressure them to do the right thing. This stuff does go on way too often in Hollywood. There are way too many stories about, sexual harassment by directors and producers, as you said, racial discrimination, all sorts of things, creating a toxicity that, we still talk about to this day in the industry, and yet nothing's done about it. It never changes. These people just keep getting handed multi-mega million-dollar, films. So, yeah, something's got to change. People have to start looking at this, and to have somebody with the star power of Jason Momoa standing up to back one of his lesser known, colleagues is really, really cool, and hopefully will draw a little bit of change, force them to, like you said, investigate it and see what really was going on.
And the post that Jason Momoa actually put on his Instagram actually went on because what happened was that I guess Warner Brothers was trying to change the subject or distract from Fisher's allegations by posting something having to do with saying that Jason Momoa was going to voice the character Frosty the Snowman in an upcoming film by Berg and Johns. And Momoa got pissed. He got pissed about that whole situation, basically saying that it was a fake. He went on that same post and continued on to say, quote, I just think it's effed up that people released a fake Frosty announcement without my permission to try to distract from Ray Fisher speaking up about the shitty way we were treated on Justice League reshoots. Serious stuff went down. It needs to be investigated, and people need to be held accountable. So, I mean, I think this is a move that most like big studios decide to do to try to distract from the real issues, I'm assuming.
I guarantee you the big studios do this all the time. They have their own PR departments. They know how to play the game, and the name of the game, and whether it's politics or entertainment, is spin. It's how are you going to spin it? And that's what they do. They distract. They try and change the subject. If they can't change the subject, they're going to try and spin it in another direction so that you don't view it in the same way.
And Ray Fisher, I mean, he went on Twitter actually this week. He went on to say, quote, "To date, the independent firm hired at WB Pictures has conveniently avoided contacting key witnesses who gave damning statements to WBHR. They've also started interviews with, and have since ghosted, witnesses that have implicated former and current top-level executives. Others, including an implicated individual that called me to apologize, have already been interviewed. We will not let any investigator cherry pick interviewees that best suit at WB Pictures. False narrative and scapegoating efforts, all with stories, will be heard." They're really, really pushing. They're not going to let a studio get away with this time. I mean, they're really pushing hard for this.
Well, let me say this. Jason Momoa might not be the guy they want to screw around with this song.
Oh, no, this is Ray Fisher.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, this is
I'm not. Well, that's awesome. But what I'm saying is, Jason is not a person to walk away from a fight. Recently, in Hawaii, the government was trying to put up these cell towers.
Oh yeah, I heard about that.
Sacred Hawaiian land. And Jason was one of the protesters standing in front of the bulldozers and was out there for weeks at a time. I believe a production he was working on actually got postponed because he refused to leave.
Yep.
This is not a man who walks away from a fight. And if he's getting involved in backing Ray Fisher in all of this, I guarantee you something's going to come out of this.
Oh yeah, no, without a doubt. And you know, Momoa, like, I think the guy's the coolest dude ever. Like, seriously, I mean, the first time I actually saw Jason Momoa on TV was watching Stargate Atlantis. I know that he came from Baywatch, but I didn't watch him on there. I actually started watching his acting on Stargate Atlantis, and he's just a really cool actor. He's a really cool dude.
Every interview I've seen with him, he seems very genuine, very down to earth, and like you said, just a really, really cool dude, and the kind of guy you'd like to chill and have a beer with. Yeah, he seems awesome. I have a lot of respect for his acting, and I mean, I really enjoy the parts he plays. So, no, he seems like an awesome guy, and I have even more respect for him now, you know, backing his colleague like this.
And let's hope that they actually get some, you know, the justice is served one way or another.
Just said, but
right? I didn't even notice that. Thank you for pointing that one out. We'll see what happens soon enough. Hopefully, the right people are reprimanded, and this serves as an example that you can't get away with treating people a certain way just because you're at a certain level, of a company. No, you don't do that. So
it's been going on in every industry for way too long, but I can tell you from my own experiences, it's been going on in Hollywood forever. You know, you reach a certain level, as we've seen with, Weinstein and all these others. When you reach a certain level of power and money and success in this business, people, not everyone, definitely not everyone, but, some people have a reputation for abusing that power, and Hollywood has been notorious for that, dating back to the golden age.
Yep. And it's time to stop. This isn't the golden age anymore. This is the platinum age.
This is the legal age. Yeah.
Put them. Thank you. Looks like you got one of yours yourself there, Jeremy.
Thank you.
And we'll see what happens. And I mean, hopefully, we see some sort of progression in this type of situation, and in any types of situation like these, we see some change as well, because this is definitely the era of change in so many ways. So we'll see how that goes. In other entertainment news, man, I am excited. The Mandalorian Season 2 trailer came out yesterday, and my God, Little Yoda, cutest little guy in the world. Love it. He's back again, and looks like he's getting powerful as the seasons progress. He's getting even more powerful. Cute, man. I love Little Yoda. Little Yoda's like my little. I want to keep him. I swear he's so cute. But we got to see a lot of new things that are going to be going on, including there were in the trailer they talk about the Jedi Order and how they were the enemies of the Mandalorians. So it looks like we're definitely going to go ahead and see some Jedi action from who we still don't know. There was a lot of speculation earlier this year that they were going to add the Jedi that was in Star Wars, Clone Wars, the animated series and stuff like that. They're going to add that Jedi into the Mandalorian, so we'll see what happens with that. But it looks like he has to be returning the child, little baby Yoda, to his home planet, and he's got to go ahead and he's got to give baby Yoda to the Jedi. Apparently, those are his new orders by the Mandalorian Order, and he basically, they call them enemy sorcerers. And in the trailer, he says to the Mandalorian Order, he says, quote, "You expect me to search the galaxy and return this creature to a race of enemy sorcerers?" To which the Mandalorian Order reply in their coined quote, "This is the way." So, yeah, it's going to be a very awesome season 2. It's airing in October 30th on Disney Plus. Man, I'm excited.
I know you are. I'm dying to see it too. I gotta admit, I really enjoyed the first season, and I dig on Little Yoda too. But no, I really am looking forward to seeing where they go with it, and having a little Jedi action mixed in would be a nice touch.
I mean, it's seriously like they already, obviously we've already seen Sith action, because the Sith does definitely exist in the Mandalorian, especially the one that's trying to get to Baby Yoda. I mean, the Sith, they've been a pain in the ass all the time, but you can't have Star Wars without the Sith. That's for damn sure. So, I mean, we've seen Sith action. We want to see some Jedi action.
The dark does not exist without the light, and so on and so forth.
I mean, you're telling me,
Yes. See, I'm the light. You're the dark.
Oh! Get the F out of here with that.
I'm the angel. You're the devil.
Don't even get me started. Don't even get me started. Okay, you're the devil. Are you kidding me? You're el diablo. You're the one that corrupts me. Okay.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Exactly. Even the devil knew the Bible backwards and forwards. Okay. So again, Mandalorian comes out October 30th on Disney Plus. Make sure you watch for that, because it's going to be an awesome season 2. Looking forward to it. Sucks that the trailer was so short. I want to know more, but we're going to have to wait, a little over a month to find out exactly what's going to happen with Mando and with the child, aka little baby Yoda. Coming up next is sports. Gonna have a couple of things to chat about in sports, including Daniel Cormier possibly or commenting on a role of being commentator. I can't even say the word of being commentator, being a commentator actually in the WWE. That would be interesting to listen to. That's for damn sure. But first, here is Cicada's Moonlight right here on the Xander Effect.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Ariane Celeste, and you're watching The Xander Effect.
Such angry red inside your head, you never smile. Emotionless and stared without love. Metallic gray, the price you pay for self-exile. In shadow every day without love. The years are mystifying, crying for the heart you're dreaming of. Midnight like a vacuum pack of desolation, a spectrum that you lack without love. Cold empty white must every night with no vacation, alone in silent light without love. Your mind is mystifying, crying for the heart you're dreaming of.
That was Afraid of Love by the Pawhawks right here on the Xander Effect. In sports, so Jeremy, what would you think of Daniel Cormier being one of the commentators in WWE?
That one really threw me for a little bit of a loop. I've seen Cormier's interviews and things like that, and he's never come across to me as a character.
Mm-hmm.
he seems to be very level-headed and very. I'm not sure how good of a fit he would be. I haven't seen that side of him. I mean, the commentators tend to be a little outlandish and, have been a part of that life for a long time. Maybe Cormier's a big fan and can do that. I don't know, but I haven't seen that from him in his interviews.
Well, actually, it's funny because he actually is a fan of it, and he went on and he told Sports Illustrated, quote, "We've been talking. We've spoken to some of the people over there in very, very early conversations. WWE is a company I've watched and loved my entire life. Put me at the commentary table. Let me call the matches for 6 months and tell you how great these wrestlers are in the ring. I would love that. And I wouldn't be faking it. WWE is something I've loved my entire life." So he's definitely gung-ho about it.
Hey, and I love that. I mean, I didn't know he was a fan, and that's really cool. I mean, any fan would love a chance to, be a part of WWE. But like I said, I was just a little taken back by it because he was not a Conor McGregor type in his interviews. He wasn't a loudmouth. He wasn't trying to be a big character.
Except whenever he was talking to John Jones,
no, he hates John Jones.
Yeah, they really don't like each other.
There's an actual hatred that was not showmanship.
Yeah, so, totally. That was very genuine. He genuinely hated John.
As you could tell, that was not showmanship. So. Yeah.
I mean, it's just so funny. Like whenever I loved watching their interviews. I loved watching their interviews because my God, the animosity between them two was the most. It was just that's what I love about the UFC. That's the thing that I relish about the UFC is that how some of these guys, they genuinely hate each other. So, but you know what? Sometimes it kind of it's anticlimactic. Because you hear all the trash talk, you get all riled up, you get the hype for this fight, and then when it happens, you want to see them just go at it with one another, just beat the crap out of each other because they just hate each other, and it turns out to be the opposite most of the time.
That's one of the things with UFC, and I'm not saying it's a negative, but it is one of the things with UFC.
It's a game plan.
There is. A game plan is so crucial in mixed martial arts.
You can't allow emotions to dictate.
You cannot. And the truth is, because you're working in a shorter time frame, your game plan has to be even more perfect. You don't have the amount of time you do in a 12, 15 round boxing match to adjust your game plan, to adjust to what your opponent is doing. You've got 3 rounds or 5 if it's a championship, and that's it. So game plan is insanely important.
Oh yeah, and that's the thing is that, I mean, even in martial arts, they always teach us don't fight with emotion. I mean, you have to have your emotions in check. So regardless of the trash talk, it's almost like the real fight is verbal. That's what the real fight is. It boils down to that. The real fight is all verbal. But when it comes time to be, locked inside that cage, you use some emotion when you strike, but you don't let it control the entire fight because that's when you make mistakes.
Well, the best don't.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Because that's exactly where you make mistakes. I mean, I think that's why Conor McGregor, he's considered one of the best because he would trash talk an opponent like crazy. They would get super emotional, and that's when he owned them every single time.
Well, fighters like Conor play that mental game so well. Conor had that Ali ability to trash talk you into mistakes, trash talk you enough into getting you out of your game plan, out of your comfort zone. And he had that ability. The best trash talkers, that's what they're really trying to do. The best trash talkers don't really have animosity behind it. They're using it as psychological warfare.
And that's what that's what makes the fights more entertaining but anticlimactic at the end. Mm-hmm. Because I'm just like, yeah, listen, they're gonna kick their. No, they're not. They're not. They're not. Come on, hit them harder.
That's why, truthfully, as much as I do, because I've trained martial arts for years. I've always been a fan. I love MMA,
mm-hmm,
but I was born and raised a boxing fan, and it will always be my favorite combat sport because, except for the rare Floyd Mayweather who somehow achieved success by being the most boring person I've ever seen fight.
Well, you know, I mean, he always plays defense, so
He's literally the most boring human being to watch fight that has ever lived. But beyond him, you have to mix it up. Game plan or not, you can't sit there and hold all day long. There's no grappling. You are forced to get in there and try and pound on your opponent. No, it's more action packed to me. And because I've watched it for so long, even in the most brutal fights, you still see why it's called the sweet science, because that game plan is still always there. But because of the nature of the sport, you are forced to constantly be going at your opponent.
True.
And I love the pace. That's why boxing will always hold a special place in my heart and probably always be my top combat sport.
True. I mean, and I bet you're looking forward to the Tyson fight, right?
I actually got to admit that the Tyson Roy Jones fight's going to be fun to watch, but I really respect what Roy Jones came out this week and said. He gave a great interview, and he basically said, look, I haven't forgotten who Mike Tyson was. I ain't stupid. He's like, this is the most powerful man that has ever put on gloves, and he still hits like a freight train. Mm-hmm. He said, if there's anything, I made a mistake getting in the ring with him. He said it flat out. He said, if there's anything, I made a mistake getting in the ring with him.
At this age, especially, and they're in the very, like, you know, I mean, they're older now, and I mean, granted, you know, Iron Mike, Iron doesn't age, apparently.
Like I said, I'm not a big fan of these older fighters getting into the ring for many reasons. I mean, the detriment to the brain, all that kind of stuff.
Hurt. They're more fragile the older they get.
Well, it's just a fact, and it's a brutal sport. And again, that's one of the reasons why MMA is actually safer than boxing. Even though it's more brutal in some ways, the finishes are quicker. There's not as many accumulated punches to the head.
And there's also an age limit in MMA. Like, there's a certain age where, well, I mean, because it's you know, it's monitored by the Nevada Gaming Commission, and basically the NGC has a certain age limit of when a fighter needs to, like, okay, you're at the age you can't fight anymore, you need to retire. They have to force retirement on them.
Let's hold on there. You're talking about the UFC and fighting in Nevada. They circumvent that all the time to bring back Ken Shamrock at 50 some odd years old to fight freaking Tito Ortiz or whatever.
Well, that was and also Chuck Liddell.
That's what I'm saying. But they and then they take him out of country or out of state and get it licensed by. So they still do it. That's the thing.
True.
But Roy Jones and Mike Tyson, I believe, are going to take this seriously. I believe they're going to get in and actually we will see a boxing match, not a couple of old guys, you know, grabbing onto each other and doing nothing.
Yeah. Because they're old school. Well, their style is old school.
That's what I mean. So I think they will take it seriously, train hard, and we'll get to see a good boxing match.
I mean, we've seen videos of Tyson training, and I'm scared of the guy.
Oh, he looks amazing. You know, I mean, he's like Roy Jones said, if anything, he might have made a mistake. But let's not forget, Roy Jones was one of the fastest, craftiest, and hardest hitting lightweights or light heavyweights that has ever fought.
True.
So, I mean, he held titles in 3 different divisions. Might have been 4. I think it was 3.
Honestly,
he was crafty. He was slick. He was fast. So he's got a shot. You know, if he gets caught, I mean, Mike can still lay out a freight train. So
true. And I mean, it's going to be one hell of a fight. Hopefully there's no ear biting this time around. Although I doubt it.
From what I've heard, Mike is well medicated now. I mean, through his own admission, you know, he's seen doctors. He's gotten a lot of his issues under control. So
honestly, I think I would have wanted to watch another Holyfield Tyson fight again, like, you know, have them do the rematch and do the fight the way it was supposed to be. without the whole ear biting thing. But I mean, who knows if Holyfield wants to take that risk with Mike again?
Well, this late, I don't think so. I mean, I would bet absolutely not. But you have to remember, at the time, Mike, as we never got to see Tyson Holyfield when it should have happened.
True.
It should have happened back when it was first scheduled, before Mike went away for his rape convictions. Now, I'm talking as a fan of boxing, when we would have wanted to see that fight. Of course, he should have gone away for what he did. I'm not saying that, but that was when that fight should have happened. When they finally got together and did fight, Holyfield beat his butt that first fight. Plain and simple.
Yeah.
I mean, he handed it to him that whole first fight, and I knew it was going to happen.
That's why Tyson had to do something. I think Holyfield, to be honest with you, Holyfield was the only one that was able to go up against Tyson and be able to beat him. Holyfield.
At that time, I agree. When he was, now again, had we seen that fight back in 91 or 2, whatever it was, before he went to prison, I can't say with the confidence I had at that first fight that Holyfield would have won.
Agreed.
Tyson was at the top of his game. He hadn't lost a step yet. I think he would have had a much better shot.
I actually said the same thing. I'll be honest with you. I actually said the same thing when I saw the fight. I was like, this isn't the same Tyson I remember when he was. And I was a kid when I saw it, but I still remember. I was like watching the fight. I was like, Tyson, this isn't Iron Mike anymore. Like, prison is supposed to harden you. It softened him to the point that he wasn't able to go. Like, he wasn't able to go up against Holyfield. And granted, it wasn't. It had to do more with Holyfield still training. Tyson was in prison, and Holyfield was still training, obviously, and Tyson wasn't because he was
still
in prison.
still fighting regularly, and he kept himself sharp.
That had a lot to do with Tyson not being able to beat him.
Absolutely,
it's like practice makes perfect, and it made Holyfield perfect, and it had the reverse effect, obviously, on Tyson. Tyson reverted backwards. He went backwards instead of forwards.
It absolutely did. And I could go off on a Tyson tangent for another half hour. I really could. Because Tyson, we didn't get to see the best of Tyson, unfortunately, because his trainer, Cus D'Amato, died when he did. When Cus died, all of a sudden, all the other guys got into Mike's ear, telling him how great he was and everything else, and Mike's style changed. What people forget is when Cus D'Amato was teaching him, not only was he a wrecking ball who could knock you out and did knock most people out in the first 90 seconds, but he could box. His movement, his ability to jab and then go to the body, his head movement, his side to side, his lateral move, it was insane. Soon as Cus died and he got all these other guys in his ear and he fired Teddy Atlas and he fired all these trainers he'd been working with forever, he started headhunting. Mm-hmm. He started believing, I'm the great Mike Tyson. All I got to do is hit him once. He quit boxing.
Yep.
You saw it in the fights leading up to Buster Douglas. You saw how inferior his boxing had become. And we honestly got gypped. Mike Tyson could have been, if Cus had been able to stay with him longer, he could have been just the hands down greatest of all time. Yeah, I've never seen someone who could hit that hard move like him.
And that's the thing, is that, that's what many people don't understand. A fighter is only as good as his trainers are. And Tyson had good chemistry with his trainers. That's what made him so great. That's what made him an even more powerful boxer.
Absolutely.
Was the fact of the matter that he knew how to move, he knew where to hit, when to hit, and how to hit.
Dude, he was a combination of Frazier and Ali. I mean, he could honestly move and slip. I mean, he was nowhere as slippery as Ali, but I'm saying he could move like that. Yet he hit like Frazier and Foreman.
And that's what counted. And unfortunately, like you said, he didn't have the right training. He didn't have anybody that he needed. He thought he could, just with the hit power was enough. It's not enough. You have to have the right trainer to tell you when to hit, how to move, etc. And it just, Man, I just it was a tragedy, but hopefully years have passed. He's gotten the right trainers on his back now. Again, this is just an exhibition fight anyway. It's nothing for a title or anything like that, which is going to be very enjoyable to boxing fans everywhere.
Boxing fans are going to love this. I think every real boxing fan is really looking forward to seeing this. And the competitive juices of these two guys are not going to let them go soft.
True.
They're not going to go into that ring thinking, oh, it's an exhibition. I'm just, we're going to slough it a little bit. I mean, the competitive juices of two former great champions, they're going to go in there and mix it up.
Oh, totally. But honestly, we man, I can't even talk to you. I can't bring one thing up. It's, we go on a tangent. We're talking about Daniel Cormier going to the WWE. We were talking about Daniel Cormier going to the WWE as a commentator. Somehow we got into the whole Tyson freaking thing. That was my fault though, because I'm the one that brought it up. So yeah, my bad on that. In other sports news, entertainment news, we already did that. In other sports news, speaking of the WWE, Booker T actually tested positive for COVID-19 several weeks ago. He went on his podcast and basically revealed that, quote, I got a call today from the CDC and they told me I have tested positive for coronavirus back at the end of June. I never got my results back, but they called me. Rest assured today to tell me that back at the end of June when I got tested that I tested positive. I've had 3 tests since then and they all came back negative. It just goes to show you how bad that we really are with this system that we are working with. People are finding out if they have this or they don't. I'm living proof. Thank God that I'm still here. That's scary. That's terrifying.
It is scary, and
because he was asymptomatic, apparently.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm going to take this on another tangent and bring this back to Daniel Cormier.
And here we go.
Apparently, yesterday, Cormier came out and said that he tested positive in the lead up to the Stipe fight.
Jesus.
And I apparently didn't find out until recently.
Wow.
So I just read an interview with Cormier talking about that, I believe, yesterday.
That's terrifying. That's so terrifying because, I mean, that's just you don't know if you have it. I mean, some of these athletes, they don't know because, they pretty much dismiss it as a regular common cold, whatever. I don't have the other symptoms, so I must not have it. But you do. It just didn't hit you as hard as anybody else because you're like some of these athletes. They're in such great shape. They are very well taken care of that it doesn't hit them as hard. But if they're carriers and they give it to somebody that's not as fortunate as they are to be in such great health, they could kill somebody and not even know it until later on.
That's the scary thing.
That's terrifying, man. And it just, I mean. Wow, Booker T, he found out at the end, he found out that he had it towards the end of July, end of June. And that means he's been walking around with it the entire time.
2 months, yeah.
Like, that is freaking, terrifying. Who knows how many people he,
was in contact with. And
he infected.
Well, possibly.
Without knowing, possibly infected without even knowing it because he didn't know. I mean, that's definitely something that needs to be fixed. That needs to be fixed right now because that's something that's, that's an example of what's going on right now with these testing.
It's an example of our entire medical system, man. It's a very broken system. I'm not going to harp on any one thing, but, the fact is it's you go anywhere else in the world, as so many other countries, and they have functioning, and I'm not talking social Medicare or anything like that. I'm just talking health services. They have functioning health services. Things are being taken care of. You're not getting this crap that should not be slipping through the cracks all the time. Mm-hmm. We have a very broken system, and something has to be done about it.
Well, let's hope that something happen soon enough with what's going on, because that's just, if Booker T's like that, imagine how many thousands or millions more are like him, not getting the results, and they just continue to, pass this around. That's the reason why masks are so important, because you don't know if you have it or if you don't. So
you and I have talked about this, man. That is the main reason that I am as precautious as I am, why I wear a mask. It's not just, it's really not for my protection. It's for the protection of those around me. If I was responsible for someone's death with my negligence, I wouldn't be able to live with myself.
Agreed. I don't think anybody would. I don't think anybody with good conscience would be able to live with themselves knowing that they were the cause of someone else's death, a broken family, because of that death, anything. I mean, that's just it's consequences that go beyond just one person's death. It doesn't just affect that one person that died. It affects everybody else besides them, because that one person could have infected more. And it just keeps up. I can't even think about it. It's a domino effect. It's a horrifying domino effect. So let's just hope that they go ahead and get this under control very soon. Coming up next in video game news, Nintendo confirms it has new hardware planned, but offers very few details according to IGN.com. We'll talk a little bit about that. But first, here is Ali's Heatwave right here on the Xander Effect.
What's happening? It's your favorite gangster, Duke Brown.
Hey guys, this is Ian Gary.
Hey, this is Annalise Hoveda.
Hey yo, this is Nightmare from Dirty Machine.
Hi, this is Cambry Loveseat.
Hey, this is Steph Lee.
And you're listening.
And you're listening.
And you're listening.
And you're listening.
And you're listening to The Xander Effect.
That was Paulina's Angel right here on the Xander Effect. In video game news, so according to IGN.com, it seems that Nintendo is confirming that it's going to be having new hardware. Hasn't given too much details about it, but it's no surprise. I mean, remember how I told you that you have all these next gen consoles coming out? Where's Nintendo? No, like Nintendo is one of the top companies for family-based type of games. So you wonder where are they at with their new console, with their next gen console, etc. Apparently, they've been holding out. They've been keeping a lot of their stuff a secret. And according to IGN.com, it says, quote, This article is by Jordan Oloman and Joe Screbbles of IGN.com. It says, quote, Nintendo has confirmed it has plans for a console beyond the Switch, which will follow the integrated hardware-software approach utilized in its previous consoles, and shocking no one, added that it will arrive within this century. So they're not even really giving a date. Okay, and it continues to say, the details were found in the company's corporate management policy briefing for the current fiscal year. In it, you'll find a slide explaining Nintendo's future outlook. The slide alludes to the next gaming system Nintendo plans to produce, which is said to arrive in 20XX. That's what it said on the website. This means fans can rest easy knowing that they'll get another Nintendo console this century. Phew. That's what the article said.
That's great. I love that. A little tongue-in-cheek, but I have to say, that's one of the things I love about Nintendo. They're a little cheeky. They like doing things like this. You know, they do tend to keep things close to the vest. They don't give a lot of details about a lot of their hardware and stuff before they're ready to. You know, they don't play the game that Microsoft and, you know, Sony have gotten into, you know, where we're going to leak a little of this, we're going to leak a little of this, we're going to play chicken and see who can hold out the longest on price, and you know, Nintendo just refuses to play their game, and I love it. It's kind of quirky and it's endearing to me.
It's, you know, it's funny because Nintendo is their own style, because they've been around for a lot longer, obviously, than Sony, PlayStation, and Xbox. I mean, they know how to play this. I mean, their only competitor when they first started was Sega. That was their only other competitor, and they didn't even really bother to compete hardcore with them at all.
No, and like you said, when Nintendo first came out, they didn't even have Sega as a competitor. I mean, they did in Japan, they did anywhere else, but when Nintendo first came to the US, you got to remember, I played the first systems that hit the US. Because I was doing Growing Pains at the time, they brought a bunch of us in to play the Nintendo at this
really?
big.
They had video game systems back in the 1800s?
Yes, it was carved on rock. It was like the Flintstones. There was that little bird in there, you know, tapping away. They took a lot longer back then, but it was fun.
Oh, the loading speed was a lot longer.
Oh man, it was brutal.
You totally gave me the visual of the bird. That's why I'm not cracking up even more, because I get the visual of the bird.
I saw it too.
He's going as fast as he can. This is no way to make a living.
But, you know, really, they only had Atari, who had already started falling apart at that point. You know, Sega didn't try and compete in the US until a few years after Nintendo had really made its name. Nintendo was well established by the time Sega tried to make its move into the United States.
True.
So, I mean, Nintendo was playing their own ball game from the beginning and have just kind of stuck to that.
And you know what? It seems that they continue that trend to this day. They're still in their very own ball game. They don't play the whole competitiveness because they have a fan base. Like Nintendo has its own fan base that their own loyal buyers that will continue to buy. And mainly it's because Nintendo did this. They went the smart route. Their focus was more on child games. Like
they focused on what was lacking in the market. They could have gone the route everybody else did and chase all the big titles that are bringing people in money. But all they would have been doing is fighting for a percentage of, you know, everybody else's share. No, they created their own market. They stuck with the smaller, you could call it, market, and decided they were going to make that their own, and no one has been able to touch them when it comes to family and child gaming.
True. And in terms of details on their new console, the article continued to say, quote, In terms of concrete details, there's little to go on other than the fact that Nintendo will continue to use the current Nintendo account system on the next console and plans to add more services linked to Nintendo accounts over time to offer better value for users. So again, they're pretty much keeping a lot of their details, everything close to the chest, and we just gotta wait and see exactly where they're gonna go with this. I mean, you know, I stopped playing Nintendo years ago. Ever since, you know, Sony came out with their console with PlayStation, I switched over to PlayStation a long time ago. I love I did, however, purchase the little Nintendo game thing that has like 100 of the original games in it, like, you know,
classic
Punch Out. Yeah, exactly, the classic. I have all the Super Mario Brothers. You know, I have Punch Out, Legend of Zelda, all that stuff, and I play that from time to time because that's always fun to play. But I didn't go. I never even bought the Super Nintendo when it came out. Mainly because, you know, at the time, my parents were already like kind of upset that I was already. They didn't want to buy me a Nintendo for the reason that you're already distracted as it is. We're gonna buy you a game console to make it worse. Well, yeah, they weren't wrong about it, but it is what it is. I mean, I got addicted. I have an addictive personality when it comes to video games, and they knew that. And they didn't want to go ahead and give me something more to be addicted to. So they stopped at Nintendo. They didn't continue on with Super Nintendo. Although I gotta tell you, my mom, whenever I played video games, she loved watching me play because she didn't know how to play it, but she loved watching me. She loved watching the stories of the games. And she loved one game in particular in Nintendo called Crystalis. And it was a really entertaining game. She loved that one.
I remember Crystalis.
Yeah, she loved it. She enjoyed it. So that was her favorite game. And she would always ask, "What can you find that game? I mean, I love that game. It was so entertaining." And I was like, "Well, Ma, I got something better." You know, I mean, this is back when I had an Xbox and I started playing Assassin's Creed, and I got her into Assassin's Creed. She loved that game too. She was like, "Wow, it's so real. It looks so real." I was like, "I know, right?" So yeah, I mean, eventually I brought my mom into the dark side, but indirectly, not directly, because she couldn't play it. So
right,
there'd be times when she would watch me play, and she's like, "Okay, I gotta get out of here. You get me into this stupid thing again," and she would leave my room because she wouldn't want to get into it.
Hey man, those are the games that have always driven me more, and that's why I've gotten more into those RPG games and things like that. Those deep stories. Dating back, they're a lot of fun. I mean, the one that really got me originally was Knights of the Old Republic.
Oh yeah, that was a good one.
Honestly, they could have taken Knights of the Old Republic 1 and 2 and actually turned those into real Star Wars canon. I mean, they were that good. There was so much detail in the stories. And although the gameplay was fun, I found myself binge playing it because I had to know what happened next. The story was that good.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. And they also had the PC Star Wars games too, where they actually filmed real people doing like acting out parts and stuff like that for the game. And they also had really great storylines as well. I mean, these games were really well made. The story was really well made, and that's something that also, the game could be crappy as all hell. The gameplay could be crappy as all hell, but if the storyline is good, you got me hooked. It's like, I'll go ahead and play the crappy gameplay. I'll go ahead and do that because I want to know what happens next, you know, in the storyline. And one of the games that stands out to me that has a really good storyline is also Kingdom Hearts.
Kingdom Hearts was a great game.
Dude, I'm so pissed that I didn't get to finish the first one. and I don't know why. Something happened. I couldn't finish the first one. That's right, because I borrowed the game from somebody and they wanted it back. I was like, no, I haven't finished it yet. I didn't want to give it back.
Old days.
Right? Then we had to go ahead and, hey, can I borrow your game? Hey, let me borrow that game for a little bit, God, I remember those days where we used to, like, especially Nintendo, when we used to be like, hey, let me borrow Mike Tyson's Punch-Out.
No one got to borrow my Punch-Out.
That was the original game share. That was the original game sharing right now. Literal game share. But, dude, I still have a couple of games that I never gave back to a couple of people. I got to admit that. I have, like, this Tony Hawk game. I don't even know who that game belongs to. I found it for PlayStation. I found it in, like, a rummage of stuff. I was like, who did I borrow this from? There's just so many games that I forgot to give back. I mean, that's probably the reason why a lot of people didn't let me borrow their games. But that's beside the point. Going back to what you were talking about as far as RPG games, in other video game news, you actually have a game that you have a little bit of a gripe with right now.
Well, I have a gripe and a kudos for them. I've gotten into my first mobile gaming game, and yes, I got hook, line, and sinkered by the great marketing team of Raid Shadow Legends that everybody is bombarded with on YouTube every 5 seconds. So I gave it a shot, and they hooked me, and it's a great game. It's very enjoyable. It's a lot of fun, but there is a large part of the community that is just very unhappy. They don't put a lot of effort into fixing the things that are wrong with the game. It seems that they are just very content to collect as much money as they can for as long as they can until this all blows up. That's what it seems like. They have a great game that if they really took care of it and took care of the getting cheaters out of the game and all the little things that are kind of going wrong with it, it could literally be the next World of Warcraft. It could go on 20, 25 years and turn them into wealthy people. But it seems like they're taking the other business model, which is just, reap as much as we can till it falls apart, because they just don't seem interested in fixing it. This is a company that reputedly, I don't have the numbers in front of me, makes somewhere in the neighborhood of $12 to $18 million a month worldwide on this game. And yet they released a new patch last night, again, for about the 10th patch in a row, that is bugged all to hell. And all night and all day today, the game is not working properly. If you're making that much money, hire some damn developers who can do the job properly.
Amen to that.
What is the damn problem? Why is every patch coming out as a problem? You people make money hand over fist. So there are a lot of complaints. There's too much individual issues to get into, but they need to start fixing these things. This is one of the most popular mobile games out there right now, and if they did it right, they could create a community that would support them. Right now, they're creating a community that is getting combative because they don't seem to care about their community. Now, I will give them a little kudos here. There is a new feature in the game. It's Tag Team Arena, where you patch together 3 different teams of 4 champions and fight other players. It's a PvP, player versus player, and there's a lot of cheating that's been going on in the regular arena, which is one 4-person team against another, where basically they're not hacking the game, but they're manipulating the statistics by having teammates lose, 1,000 games to them in an hour, so that they can boost their stats to get better prizes. And there's all sorts of little shady manipulations going on that they haven't either cared enough to fix or just haven't had anybody smart enough to figure out how to fix. So that started going on in their new feature, Tag Team Arena. And thankfully, after about 2 months of this, they actually took away all the fraudulent points from the top scorers, because their metrics showed that these people were racking up points much quicker than possible without somebody cheating for them.
Yeah, they're hackers.
And they took away all their fraudulent points.
Good.
So the people who actually won the prizes this time and actually were people who had really achieved it and put in the work. So it was good to see. It's about time. It's a very small drop in the bucket for the things that they need to address, but it was very nice to see Plarium, which is their development company. It was very nice to see them actually do something to fix what's wrong with the game. Hopefully they continue on this path and they keep making adjustments and keep fixing it and making this game better, because they have a lot of people who will remain loyal to this game, including myself. But if they don't, there's a reason why people are getting very burned out on this game very quickly.
And you know what? I mean, that's actually like high praise for game developers, because you actually hit the nail right on the head. This happens not just in mobile apps, but I mean in every game. I mean, you have these game developers, the big ones like EA, for example. Madden, my God, that game's got so many glitches right now. And you think that such a big game like Madden would actually do very well as far as glitches go. No, it still has a lot of issues that they need to fix. It's like, dude, you're a multi-million-dollar company that deals with a multi-billion-dollar company. I mean, with the NFL. I mean, come on, get your act together. You know, you need to stop and review what's going on. I mean, you have issues that, oh my God, it's just in the gameplay itself. There are times where I would go ahead and throw the ball to a receiver, and somehow the receiver wouldn't catch the ball, but it would go right through the receiver's body and into the defender's hands, causing an interception. I mean, you have issues like that happen all the time. Or you have suddenly the other issue as well is in multiplayer when you're playing against somebody else. When you go for a field goal or when you go for a field goal, it lags. There's a lagging problem that they still have not fixed when it comes to kicking the ball into the uprights. It just doesn't make any sense why there should be a lag. And, you know, could be internet connection, whatever you want, but they need to fix that too. I mean, they make the bar, because there's a bar that goes up and then back down again. You know, you have to click it twice. Once it goes up for the power of the kick, and one for when it comes back down to angle the kick correctly, so that way it goes in the middle or at least goes into the uprights. And it just, you know, there's a lag because when you click the first time, it doesn't compute that click.
Right.
So it goes back down. And it's like, what the hell, dude? You completely you missed the field goal, and that's the cost of the game.
Yeah, it makes no sense to me to have companies that are making the amounts of money that they make off of this, and yet they can't invest it in people who can either make it work right the first time or just not releasing it until it's done. You know, when did it become okay to release an unfinished product?
I agree. And, you know, it's annoying because you pay a lot of money for this. And I mean, as far as Madden is concerned, you pay a lot of money for some of these games. I mean, another issue that I have with Madden, and you know, I'm glad you brought this up because I have a little bit of a gripe that I wanted to talk about as well, involving Madden, because sometimes I think that EA needs players to continue to play this game. Maybe it gives them, like, you know, maybe there's an algorithm that they get points off of or money off of or whatever, because I just can't for the life of me understand why there's certain modes in the game where you have to do certain things in order to progress. And you have, for example, let me give you an example. Say one of the challenges is that you have to get 3 catches in order to progress to the next level. Well, in other challenges, the receiver always catches the ball. My receiver always catches the ball in other challenges. Why is it that when I get to this particular challenge, my receiver's suddenly dropping the pass? It makes no sense. It's like, dude, be consistent.
It's lazy programming. I'm sorry, I've never liked that. I do not. That's what I call cheat hardness or cheat difficulty. They don't understand how to make it more difficult in a organic manner. So they put things like that in there.
It's just so frustrating because it's like, dude, my receiver. I mean, and that. Oh, here's the other really kicker to the whole thing. So a lot of the players that you have, they have certain tiers. I have an 87. Say for example, I have an 87 Devontae Adams. Great wide receiver. He's going up against.
Yeah, if only he didn't play for that team,
Easy. And choke on that. He goes up against, say for example, the AI, they have their card is 76 cornerback that's covering the receiver. I throw it. How is it that this 76 speed could match with my 87 receiver speed? It matches it. Goes right next to it, and it matches it, and it intercepts the ball. How is that possible? It doesn't make any sense. You have one receiver that supposedly is, faster than the AI's tiered receiver or cornerback, and yet he's still able to keep up, and he's still able to catch the ball and even intercept it. That makes no sense whatsoever. These are the examples of frustration that game players. That loyal game players have to deal with EA. And it's just like, dude, seriously, EA, you need to stop doing that to your loyal fan base, because it's not fair that you're doing this to them. It frustrates them.
It is. It's very frustrating for, like you said, especially loyal fans of those games, and for it not to be. I mean, again, to me, it's just lazy programming. They can't figure out how to get the AI to do the defense better, so all they do is let these people perform better than their stats should allow them to. That's just, to me, that's lazy. Why couldn't you figure out a way to make the, defense stronger? Why couldn't you find a way to make them, okay, well, this guy's faster, they're going to have to double team, which will create weaknesses in other places, or, any of the realistic things that would make it tougher. And instead, they just do, stuff like that, again, a guy who's got an 87 speed should not be running side by side with a guy who's 76.
And here's the thing. But here's the issue that I have as well, Jeremy, is the fact of the matter. You say it's lazy programming. I say they're just being dicks. And the reason I'm saying that is because a lot of gamers have found methods to be able to pass or make certain plays that the AI can't keep up with in order to hack around the BS that they put gamers through. You know what Madden does? They go ahead and find a way to stop that as well. So, for example, there is when it comes to say, for example, they have this thing called Ultimate Solo Battles, and the AI, the AI's OVR is a lot less than mine, but yet they find ways to make their players overpowered, and that's annoying. So I go on YouTube to find methods around this, so that way I could actually beat the AI and be able to get the prizes that are within it. So last year they had this little hack where you start off in a field goal formation, and then the moment the AI goes ahead and audibles, you switch from your defense has to audible as well, and change the play to punt, safe man, return, causing the AI to always throw to the right where your cornerback, where the defense's cornerback is covering that receiver, causing an interception every single time. Okay, that's the hack. That's pretty much the hack. That's the glitch. So that way you could go ahead and consistently keep on getting interceptions and be able to beat the AI at its own game. Well, this year, Madden decided to go ahead and fix that problem. So what happens is you try that same formation again. Not only does the AI not throw in that direction, but you don't have control of your cornerback. In the past, you're able to get your cornerback and give the receiver space. You're able to back up your cornerback because sometimes that receiver could be faster to have a faster receiver. So you have to, and if you don't have a fast cornerback, you have to back him up so that way he could keep up.
Right, you got to keep a safety over there to...
Exactly. What Madden did this year, they gave you no control over that safety at all. They have, I'm sorry, I kept on saying cornerback. It's actually the safety. You're right. They gave that safety, you have no control over that safety whatsoever. None. That safety stays pinching the line the entire time, and you cannot control him whatsoever until the ball is snapped. That's when you finally have control. By that time, that wide receiver's gone, and there's nothing you can do about it. So there's a new one. There's a new hack routine to it. It's the same, pretty much the same thing, except now they do a punt 8-man safe. And what happens there is that your safety, you bring it backward. You go ahead and you have you have it go. If you're on the right side, because it's always the right side, or the offense's right side, you go ahead and you pull back. As soon as the ball is snapped, you pull back the safety and you run to the left, and then you circle back to the right, causing the wide receiver to throw to the right side, thinking that the right wide receiver is open, when in actuality they're not. You go back and boom, you pick off the ball, and dude, it's a touchdown.
You've honestly just explained why I never, ever was able to get into Madden and why I preferred NCAA football always over Madden. It's just way too much complication with, you got to run this guy around here to do this against a computer. I'm just like, what kind of BS is this to get around their programming?
That's what EA has freaking reduced the players to do, because they just don't give us a chance. They make it harder. It's like, dude, what's even the point of playing this game if you're not going to give the players a chance to upgrade their team the right way? If you're going to cheat, I'm going to cheat. That's just the way it's going to go. I mean, because that's just straight cheating. Like you said, it's a program cheat, and that's not right that EA does this to their players. It's not fair.
It's pretty weak.
Yeah, I mean, that causes me not to go ahead and buy another Madden for a long time, because it's like, dude, if you're going to keep on doing this, I'm just going to stop playing it. Because I'm not going to deal with this. That's in essence, that's kind of like that's kind of like why I like playing NBA 2K, because NBA 2K doesn't have all these cheats. It doesn't have all these, I'm going to go ahead and steal the ball. No, it doesn't have all that. You're able to play the game right. You're able to actually have fun playing that game. Madden, not so much. So that's my gripe for Madden. And that's the news in case you haven't heard it. Thank you so much for listening in. Jeremy, thank you so much for being here as usual, my friend.
Glad to be here, brother, and I'll be 2-0 at the end of this week, and hopefully you won't be the opposite.
That's the reason why I didn't bring up that in the sports section. There's a reason for that. In case none of you know what we're talking about fantasy football. Yes, did not do well, but hopefully. But my Packers did very well, so I'm happy about it.
Yeah, you did have a silver lining.
I really did. So,
your
being a
fantasy
Packer fan,
team took a dump, but you did get to see your boys win, so.
Let's not even bring... Why I got to bring up old stuff for? That was last week. We're done with that. We're done with that week. Again, thanks again for being here, Mr. Miller.
You know you love me.
Yeah. And for everybody else, remember, there's still a pandemic going on out there. Remember to wear your masks. Remember to wear your goggles. Remember to wear your gloves. Remember to be safe. Practice social distancing, because the virus is still very active, and you got to watch yourselves. As far as people on the West Coast, in the United States West Coast, wear your masks, because the air quality is just horrible right now because of the fires. My thoughts go out to everybody that's being affected by the fires. Hopefully you're all staying safe. Again, Scott Jacobs, the Cali kid Scott Jacobs, is in one of those affected areas. So, brother, our thoughts are with you, and hopefully you're everybody's rebuilding and getting better with these fires, and hopefully things will get better. But just make sure that everybody stays safe. And remember, music always heals all. We'll see you next time.
Yo, yeah. I wasn't coping them out. Sure that she's talking and jumping them out. If it say something, we jumping me out. And
Xander Effect is powered by 50/50 Global Music Inc., Sony Music The Orchard, and BMG Bertelsmann. In association with Art 19 Media.